thank you for coming along to the first of the seminar. I always had this ambition that I would play at Hampden when I was younger, play at football. I never managed it. Now I can say I played at Hampden. That's great. It's a great start. Not great to see, but never mind. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about Twitter this morning, just to tell you who I am. First of all, my name is Graham.innes, and with Helen Warburton at stand 18 there, we run Creation Social Media, which is a social media training company based in Perth, but we're pretty much based anywhere and everywhere throughout Scotland. We work with businesses and organisations, talk to them about social media, to help them to understand social media better and to make it more effective for their business. We love Twitter with a passion. Twitter is one of these things that divides opinion. People love it, people hate it, people are thinking about it, not sure about it, it divides opinion. So in half an hour, to give you my take on Twitter and what could be good for you is a challenge. And I've asked at least twice to give me a 5-minute warning, a couple of people, because I could go on and on and on. All right? But first of all, I've done something a little bit different. I hope Colin's okay with this. I've set up, how many of you are on Twitter at the moment? Quite a few. Great. Lovely. If you know about hashtag, if you're happy to use a hashtag, I've created a little hashtag all to myself, or all to ourselves. If you want to use the hashtag CSMB2B in conjunction with the hashtag B2B Glasgow, feel free to do so, as you are here just now, and also during the course of the day. We're over at stand 18, I'll tell you a little bit more about that after. So, first things first, Twitter for business. Very, very important these days. There are lots and lots of reasons why people consider using Twitter for business. Very brief history. Those of you that don't know, Twitter founded in 2006 by a guy called Jack Dorsey who wanted to tweet to the world. He knew about text messaging. He thought, why can't I text to people all over the world? Concept devised 2014. We've now got an average of 284 million users. Okay? But the interesting thing, and that's where a lot of what I'll talk about today is coming from, is that 40% of those users out there don't tweet. They don't actually tweet at all. People go to Twitter to use it as a research tool, as a tool where they can develop and market their business. It's an extremely powerful marketing tool now. Next to YouTube, it is the third largest search engine on the internet. When last did any of you search Google? How many of you searched Google this morning? Yes, quite a lot. How many of you searched YouTube in the last couple of days? Quite a few. How many of you searched Twitter in the last couple of days? One or two. Okay, so that's one or two more than we usually get. But Twitter is the third largest search engine on the internet. You do not have to be a Twitter user to go searching on Twitter for anything and everything that is happening out there. You can search locally, you can search geographically, and lots of businesses and organisations are out there at the moment simply listening, compiling, and connecting with people. That's all they're doing. They're not tweeting. Because I just heard it this morning already. One of the biggest problems people say is, I don't know what to say. And what they end up saying is nonsense, or things that are ineffective, things that just waste time, and that's half the battle. So, in 2014, Twitter got bigger. I'll tell you what I mean by bigger in a second. It got very much bolder, and to a lot of people, Twitter actually became Facebook. And I wonder why you think that term is up there. Why did it become Facebook? Well, for any of you that have looked at Twitter on your desktop or laptop, it now looks very, very different to what it used to, and very, very similar to what Facebook now looks like. Very image-based, a lot of chance to be found, a lot of chance to be seen. So it changed its profile altogether. Now that in itself led to us reiterating and talking again about one of the key things that we say whenever we talk about social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, it doesn't matter. The concept of social media to us is quite simple. There are two things you need to get right. So we're talking about Twitter today, but it doesn't matter. It could be any other subject. The first impressions are what you need to get right. So given that Twitter has got this fantastic new image profile, you can make a lot of use of that. You can spend time making that cover image, as you call it, nice and attractive. That's the first impressions. And you have to engage with people. You have to engage with people. In some way, whether it's through searching or connecting or doing what you're doing, you have to engage with people. So this is what Twitter became. it became much, much bigger, much, much bolder, and very much like Facebook. Would you agree? For those of you that know Facebook, it looks a little bit different. So the cover picture is bigger, the tweets are even bigger, and the profile image is bigger.
Does that mean tweets are bigger as in you can get more characters now? Or?
No, the tweets are not bigger, they are bigger in size. Now, if some of you have noticed that, the reason why that is because if that tweet is retweeted, replied to, mentioned, followed, if something happens on that tweet, Twitter increases the size of it, just to make it stand out. All right? One of the other things that Twitter have now done is they have brought in a thing called a pinned tweet. Has anybody come across the pinned tweet? You have? Yeah. Okay. So a pinned tweet, for those of you that use Facebook, you might be familiar with the pinned post functionality there is in Facebook, whereby you can take one of your posts and pin it to the top of your page for 7 days. So it becomes your headline post. You don't have to pay for it. It's just there, and people can see it the first time they come to it. So with Twitter, Twitter have done the same. They've said you can have a pinned post. So a headline post, if something's happening that you want to showcase, and it doesn't restrict it to 7 days. So that's quite nice. You can put a post up there and leave it for however long you want. So strangely enough, I've put one up, which has been there for the last few days, and it says, looking forward to speaking at B2B Glasgow today, which is here I am now. And I put a map that shows that we are there, which is there, just over the map. Okay? But that pinned post is something which is new and is still got used to. People are still getting used to it. The other thing that has changed with Twitter significantly is how they have encouraged you to use images. In the past, I think one of the downsides that people saw with Twitter is it was just this massive stream of information, 140 character messages going through, not really any image base to it. But now that's changed, so we've got a situation where we've got lots of images and lots of availability to use images. Before we look at images, however, I want to talk to you about the change that Twitter has made in its search functionality. We mentioned earlier on how some of you have actually gone and searched Twitter recently. And you might have noticed that when you go to Twitter and search, now you have an awful lot of results which come up, not just a simple search term for one particular subject. Twitter will give you everything from, if we look at the left-hand side there, we've done a search for Glasgow. Now if you want to search for Glasgow on Twitter, you have got results containing people, photos, videos, news, timelines, and at the bottom of that search, this is on your Twitter profile if you have one, you have an advanced search functionality. Now the advanced search functionality is fantastic, and that is there even although you don't have Twitter at the moment. If you want to go to the advanced search and you don't have Twitter, if you go to the web browser and go to search.twitter.com, search.twitter.com will take you to the advanced search functionality, which also can be found from the search box in Twitter. Now people will go here and they will search for any subject at all. When you think about people searching Google, they're searching Google for websites and information about your business. When they go to Twitter, they are looking to find out what's being said about your business or your organisation. What are people saying? People are talking out there. In this room just now, someone could be talking about your business right at the back. You can't hear them because you're here. But if you were plugged into them on Twitter by doing a search result and keeping it there, you might be able to pick up on it. Search words, keywords. Okay? So this advanced search functionality, search.twitter.com, if you don't have Twitter itself, will take you to this screen here, whereby you can narrow down the search terms that you want to look for. And what's even more powerful is that you can narrow down the geographic location that you want to look for them. This is free. Yeah, this is absolutely free. So let's say you want to look for hairdressers, people talking about hairdressing in Glasgow, people talking about computers in Glasgow, people talking about anything in Glasgow. Put in either a search phrase, a keyword, a number of words, and wait for the results. And as the results come up, you can then choose to interact, to save that tweet for later, to talk to the person there and then. So it just makes it a whole new search capacity that you have. I should have pointed out, Twitter even goes far on the advanced searches. I'm sure quite a lot of you, like me, occasionally will put a little smiley face behind something or a sad face. Twitter will even look for the positive and negative sentiments on a sad face or a smiley face. So search.twitter.com, very, very important. What's even more important, I believe, with Twitter, if you're going to use it effectively and if you're going to get the maximum amount of experience from it, is to use the list functionality. How many of you use Twitter lists at the moment? A few, okay? So that's one side. If I was to say to you just now, all of you that have Twitter, you might or might not have used the list functionality to create some lists, to put people in lists. But what you might not have checked up on is how many lists are you a member of? How many people out there have put your business, if you're on Twitter, into lists? Because that's very interesting, because if you go and check it, you might find that you're in a lot of lists with a lot of other people who you're not connected to. I would challenge you to do that. If you don't know how to do it, you want to find out, we're over at stand 18, just give us a shout. Okay? If you've got a phone, we'll show you how to do it, it's not a problem. But if you use lists, the whole idea is that people will create lists to siphon out people from the main timeline, people they may want to keep an eye on, they may want to look at and see more regularly than just the people flowing through the main timeline. It's a very, very fast flowing river. Those of you that have got Twitter will know that. Okay? So people use lists. And when you go to your Twitter account, and what I've done here is I've only done it for the desktop screenshot because it was easier to present on. You can find Twitter lists from accessing your little icon at the top left. You can also see on the new layout that the list functionality appears on your front page. And that tells people how many lists you have created and how many lists you are in. However, it only tells how many public lists you're in. Because if you make a list in Twitter, let's say you're marketing or putting a list together for your competitors, so you keep your competitors and you want to keep an eye on separate, in that list, don't leave it private, don't leave it public for goodness sake. Because everybody you put in a public list gets notified that they're put in there. So they know that you will have put them in a list. If you put them in a private list, they do not get notified. So you can very secretly put them in this private list, keep an eye on them, just see what's happening. Okay? So, when you do that, the other interesting thing to remember is that you do not have to follow someone in order to put them in a Twitter list. Okay? So you do not have to go and click follow in order to put them in a Twitter list. It's quite important. So once you've discovered that you've got the list, you might be randomly trawling through Twitter and you might decide, I want to put this particular account into a list. So here's an account, here's an account, and an account for the chart that's here. Just so happens we could be trawling through this account, we come to Toso Radiators, and if we say, right, we'd like to add Toso Radiators to one of our lists, then all we do is next to the little follow button on the right hand side, there's a little wheel, you drop it down and it will say add or remove to lists. And it will either ask you to create a list or to put Toso into one that you've already got. Alright? I could have stood here and talked for hours on lists. Lists make a huge difference to your use of Twitter. If you're following a lot of people, if you're trying to keep an eye on a lot of people, lists make an enormous difference and they can help you greatly market your business. I like to call it making the river many streams. So what you're doing is you're taking this fast flowing river and you're siphoning it out and just having little streams going along. So that you, if any of you have heard of TweetDeck or Hootsuite or any of those platforms, you can have lists sitting up in front of you in columns, looking at them, glancing at them, seeing them. So these are easy to manage, easy to see, easy to understand and connect with. Now, notifications. What I said earlier is that it's very, very important that if you're going to use Twitter effectively, you do need to engage with people. One of the biggest problems we find is that when people are on Twitter, they're daily tweeting away, speaking to people, engaging with people, but they might not check their notifications. They might just expect an email to come in saying, so-and-so has followed you on Twitter, so-and-so has mentioned you on Twitter, and you react to that email. you need to start thinking about it a little bit differently. You need to make sure that your notifications are looked at least twice, 3 times a day. Because more frequently now, we're finding that Twitter emails are ending up in spam. Depending on your email client, Twitter emails can end up in spam. If your connections for notifications are not set up properly, it can mean that your notifications will end up being missed. And that's not a good thing if you're a business who needs to react to various things. So there are 6 things, and I'd ask you to take a note of these, 6 things you will be notified about on Twitter. And these 6 things are the things that I think you should always think about reacting to either say thank you, to acknowledge a mention. So you'll be notified if someone new follows you. You'll be notified if someone mentions you in a tweet. Graham at Creation Social Media is doing a talk this morning, that's a mention. Somebody's replied to Creation Social Media, you'll be notified. If someone retweets you, always thank them. If they retweet you. If anybody wants to debate that with me, I'm quite happy to do so. Always thank people if they retweet one of your tweets. If you're added to a public list, people don't tend to acknowledge or pay attention to the fact that they've been added to a public list. Any of you that find yourselves in a list when you go and look at your Twitter accounts, you will have had a notification at some point about it. Okay? And if someone favourites one of your tweets, so if someone thinks that's a good tweet, I'm going to favourite it and I'm going to read it later. I'm going to do something with it later. Alright, so 6 things, 6 notifications that happen on Twitter that you need to be aware of, and they appear in your notifications on the desktop, they appear in notifications on your phone. You can set the notifications to come and ping at you, if you so wish. Even more than that, if you are just desperately keen to keep an eye on 1, 2, 3 particular people, Android devices, iPhone devices will allow you to put a mention, to put a notification on every single tweet that comes out from one single company. So if you wanted to see every tweet that I sent out, you could put a notification in our Twitter account and you would be notified every time you tweet. Sometimes, to some people, that's important because you need to know if your competitor is saying something. You need to be right on it. Okay? So just again, something to think about. In terms of images, I mentioned earlier, images are now a vital part of Twitter. They have changed the whole ethos of how they see images being used. That image, although it's a bit grainy, might be familiar to some of you. It was one of the very first viral images that appeared on Twitter back in 2009 when the plane crashed in the Hudson River. The guy who was on Twitter went out, took a picture of it. It was quite unusual at the time. It went wildfire, went all over the place. But Twitter have got sort of in full circle and they're right back and said we would love you to use images because you'll stand out. You'll be able to make your tweets look a little bit brighter than others. So if you're looking at images, when you go to tweet, how many, before I put that up there, how many images can you post with a tweet now? It is 4. It is 4. You can post 4 images with one tweet now. So you can make a nice little collage with one tweet. You can also tag people that you include, if there are people in that, with one particular tweet. So there's your composing a new tweet, strangely enough. Nice to be here in Glasgow this morning. You can add a picture, you can see that you can put who's in the photo. So in this case here we've added 4 images. It's great to be here in Glasgow, and we've tagged the 4 people that are in that particular tweet, or in the images rather, that are in that particular tweet. So when that tweet comes out, it comes up with its nice 4 images. What it also comes out with are these names of the people at the top here, who are the tagged people in that tweet. And if you were to click on those people, it will take you to their Twitter accounts. So you're actually giving them a little bit of a boost as well. If you are going to be putting images out on Twitter, it's quite important sometimes because you'll have seen this before. When images come out in a timeline, sometimes the heads get cut off. Sometimes bits of the images are cut off. It's a place where you've got to click on them to see the full size of the image. If you go onto Google and Google social image resizer, there's about 2 or 3 websites that are absolutely fantastic, and they will give you the exact sizing for images which need to be put in the Twitter timeline, in the Facebook timeline, so you don't have that problem. Okay? It just means that you know then that you're going to be faced with, you know you're going to have an image that's going to come out the right size. So that's a little bit about how Twitter can help you. But as we tend to do, when we are chatting away with people. We like to give you some little tools that we've used that can maybe just allow you to steal an edge on some people that might be using Twitter at the moment. And we do this because Twitter's a big, big place. And if you can stand out by using images or doing something a little bit different, that's always nice. And there are lots of people who are doing these sort of things. So these are a couple of giveaways for you. Try them, use them if you would like. It's just to try to be a little bit different. Have any of you come across Shoutomatic before? No? No? Okay. Shoutomatic is the ability to put your voice for 30 seconds behind the tweet that you're putting out. So not only does your 140 characters come out, but your voice describing that message will come out behind it. And at the end of it, you can populate it with a video, a link, a photograph, anything you want. It's a free program. The guy that devised this would be absolutely delighted if all of you in this room went and used Shoutomatic. But it's different. People generally don't like to get their voice out there. But if you do that, it's a little bit different. Have a look at it, shoutomatic.com. Right? The other thing that's really interesting now is, as I mentioned earlier, it's being able to see local trends, being able to see what's happening locally. What's being talked about in Glasgow just now? What's being talked about near Hampden just now? Trendsmap.com will help you to do that. Trendsmap.com is one of these things that will allow you to see what is trending locally, right down to your geographic location. You can narrow in, home in, go right in, see who's talking about what, where you are. And if they are someone that you want to follow, follow them. Okay? Excuse me. I had a cold last week, I just feel my voice is just beginning to go a little bit. So that's really all that I want to talk about with regard to Twitter. I'm sure, as always, there will be some questions that you might want to ask. If I can't answer them at the moment, we are, as I say, at Stand 18. What we do most of the time is we work in training. We train one-to-one, we train with companies, we train with organisations. A lot of the training work that we do has changed throughout the years, as social media has changed throughout the years, and it will continue to do so. But feel free, if you would like to follow us on any of these platforms. Any training that you decide to do, I'm bringing this out not just for social media, but also because it's something that rears its head frequently as we speak to people. Training opportunities are available via Skills Development Scotland, and that's something that most of you, or some of you, might be aware of, might not be aware of. That can help you quite a lot with any future training that you might do, flexible training opportunities. So thank you. Find us at Stand 18 if you'd like to ask some more questions. And the hashtag CSMB2B. I'd be happy if you use that. I've been given a sort of 5-minute warning, which means you could, if you want, ask me any questions at the moment, just for a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. John.
Thank you. And when I first knew you, you're mostly Facebook. Are you saying Twitter, because it's instant, is taking its place in the
No. No, not at all, John. No. Twitter, I speak about Twitter, it's not because it's flavour of the month, it's not because it's bigger or better than Facebook, but it has a place, and it's changed its identity, and therefore there are people who prefer Twitter. Companies and organisations prefer Twitter, and the people that follow companies and organisations have a preference. Some of them, I'm sure people in this room will have a preference to Twitter, or Facebook, or LinkedIn. So it's not because it's flavour of the month, it's not because it's changed its presence, it's just because a lot of changes to Twitter have taken place, and I think it's worthwhile just bringing them out.
Would you say that LinkedIn has lost a little bit, sorry, I beg your pardon, would you say that LinkedIn has lost a little bit of its kudos perhaps in all of this? Is it still a useful platform?
I would say
is Twitter taking over?
No, I would say the opposite. I would say LinkedIn has actually gained in kudos, and very much so. And again, I've just finished a series of workshop presentations on the 27 changes to the major platforms that happened since January this year, and LinkedIn features heavily in that. Because LinkedIn, for all that it's not as big a platform as Facebook and Twitter, it earns more money per capita than Facebook and Twitter, and we are reinvesting that in that investment, that profit, if you like, back into the platform. LinkedIn as a platform has changed beyond repetition. So again, I wouldn't compare like with like. I would just say that it certainly hasn't gone down in estimation.
sort of search of using it now, but
Yep.
it allows you to talk to anybody that you don't normally have a kind of channel with or connection with, so it gets into that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment. I mean, there are people who you can get to now on Twitter who might or might not speak to you, but the difference is that those people who might be furnishing you with information as a follower, it allows you to put that information to your audience and make it look like you're someone who can then become another influencer. So I would agree with that. It's certainly it's an avenue to people who didn't have before. Oh, lots of hands. Sorry, I'll come to you in just a second. Yep.
As a very new person
Yes.
to this, like 10 days ago, is there a number one tip as to how to get people to follow you, or what is it you do?
Use the search functionality.
Right.
Make sure your profile looks properly set up. Do not forget to put a header image. Don't leave an egg shape. If any of you have got an egg shape on Twitter, please make sure you don't by the end of today, because Twitter doesn't know you're there. It ignores you completely in the search engines. You could have 1 million followers. 1 million followers, and Twitter doesn't know you're there. But nobody's got an egg shape, have they? Okay. But yeah, properly present your profile, and also make use of the search functionality. Search for tweets, people locally around about your area, and use the words that your business, life coach, life coaching, that sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, somebody else. Yeah.
I'm comparing this kind of to Facebook a wee bit. I know that a lot of the things that you can do on Facebook, you're not really able to do on the mobile app, you have to kind of do it on the desktop. Is that not true with Twitter? Are you able to access all of these features on the app?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can
So
get
it's easier
absolutely
than
everything. Yeah. So I mean, if you wanted to create those lists which will appear in your normal Twitter account, you can use the likes of Hootsuite. You can't use TweetDeck on the phone, but you can use Hootsuite. Hootsuite will give you that functionality free. Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
That's useful, thanks.
no worries. Hi. Ooh,
If you want to increase your presence on Twitter and build relationships, do you have a view on how often it's appropriate to tweet? Because you see people who feel that you don't want to bombard their Twitter stream. So whether they want to, some people tweet every hour, some people tweet every 30 seconds. Do you have a view on
My view on it is Twitter is clever enough. There are tools out there. There's another tool you can have a look at, a thing called Tweerio, TWERIOD.com. Without going into the paid tools, TWERIOD.com. Tweerio.com will actually tell you when your Twitter audience are online most often. So the trick to it is finding when your audience are online. Now there are ways you can do that again through the Twitter profiling, which I haven't got time to speak about today. But you may not tweet more than once a day, once every couple of days. What you might do, however, is engage or share people's content. So by retweeting other people's content, you're actually contributing to your own. Yeah. Now I'm probably going to get kicked off, I would think. So, is there any last questions? Or is that okay? Say, feel free to come and speak to Helen's floating about there just now. I'll be there in a few minutes. But I hope you found that useful-ish, and I'll see you again soon.